if I have maybe two clients in the same niche, granted, every website or organization is different, but sometimes I'll look and be like, oh, well, like if this is a client that is in the same niche, perhaps apparel, women's apparel. What did I do for this client that I could maybe, um, stencil off this new client that I just got, and what worked and what hasn't worked. Have you had any examples like that where you just kind of look back and be like, oh, well, I did this for this client. Maybe I'll take a look at this change log and see if there's any similarities there.
A little bit, a little bit. I've kind of, I like to have like plumbing clients or HVAC clients and things like that. I find like, yes, it's a very difficult niche to kind of advertise in and manage an account for, but the payoff is huge because if they get like a new boiler installation or a furnace installation or whatever it might be, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. So welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the PPC Cave with me, Ryan Fenton, and my co-host, Gene Villanos. Today, we're going to be talking about how to create a changelog and what you should write when it comes to Google Ads. So, to give you all a little bit of an overview, a changelog is basically a document of some sort where you put the date and you make the change. So you say, okay, well, today on this date, I made this change in Google Ads, and have it written down, a list of the changes that you made, rather than say relying on the change history inside Google Ads. But we're going to get properly into it. I just wanted to kind of preface the episode a little bit in case you're wondering what a change log is. That's kind of what it is, and that's what we're going to be talking about: how you can document the changes you've made over the months, years of working with clients. Gene, how are you this week?
I'm good. It's Thanksgiving, it's nearing Thanksgiving, November, so it's pretty cold over here. But getting on with clients. Black Friday's coming up, Cyber Monday's coming up, so yeah, excited about that. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. We don't do anything like Thanksgiving, unfortunately, but we still do Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I've been running around trying to get all my clients sorted for Black Friday, all the promotions, merchant center promotions, things like that. And yeah, it's absolutely freezing here in the UK, as it always is, compared to sunny America. So yeah, but we're just cracking on over here, and yeah, just been busy with client stuff really. But I forgot it was Thanksgiving over there for you guys actually. What are you doing? Have you got any Thanksgiving plans or?
Yeah, we're gonna have the family over. So always good turkey, barbecue, probably some brisket, mashed potatoes. I'm just excited
Wow.
about the food. It's like the one day that you could be a glutton and it's okay.
Wow.
So
Are you gonna watch a game?
yeah, the Cowboys always play on Thanksgiving. So
Really?
we're terrible, the Dallas Cowboys, but hoping for a Thanksgiving win.
Who are you playing?
I think we're playing the Giants. I think
Yeah.
it's the
Nice.
Giants. Yeah.
That'll be a good game.
Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
I mean, yeah, we should definitely, win. And as a Cowboys fan, and one way to win if you're a PPC manager is making sure, like Ryan says, to have a change log and
Boom.
going
Straight
behind
onto it.
straight on, but going kind of like a little bit backwards. Like this is more of a series for someone that's like starting out in Google Ads. And I honestly wish this was something that I knew before I started Google Ads because I didn't really, I mean, yeah, I've had notes, but not a structured change log in the first couple clients or the first instances I began to actually manage PPC accounts. It's not until later on that I'm kind of like, okay, well, I need all this information in aggregate. And you ask, why do we need this information written down? I believe PPC and Google Ads in this instance is it's really important to be able to be analytical, not only from the quantitative data side of just looking at numbers, ROAS, CPA, clicks, cost, conversions, but qualitative as well, where you're using language and building out more of an analysis of why you either pivoted or doubled down on a specific instance and dating that. That's essentially what a change log is. And I'm sure Ryan will discuss with y'all how he does it, but I just use Google Docs, and I'll open up a Google Doc, have the client name on there, the specific date, also the specific ad group and the action. But not only the action, I like to, analyze what led up to that action. And it's usually me listing off, either last 7 days, last 14 days, last 13 days worth of statistics and performance within the account itself. And the biggest reason why I do this is to not let myself panic if I either see negative results or the lack of results, and I begin to start changing things again, changing stuff around. That's one of the biggest pitfalls. It doesn't matter if you're in Google Ads for 1 year, 1 month, 5 years, 10 years. Over optimizing, and I'm putting optimization or optimizing in quotes right now, is one of the biggest killers for any account. So this, for me at least, really set the pace where, okay, you just made a huge change. It could be a bid strategy or budget change 2 days ago. The fact that it feels like it's forever since you've made that change, but you actually look onto your change log and see it was only 2 days ago. I'm like, oh, well, I have 5 more days to then I could, overreact then, right? At least have a week worth of data. So high overview, Ryan, any, additions or thoughts in what I just spoke about?
Yeah, I think we kind of do it differently by the sounds of it then. So just explain a little more about what you are documenting, because you said you do last 7, last 14, last 30 days. Like, have you got an example? Because I'm thinking about showing an example for people. Can you mock up an example and share screen or?
So I do have an example. Let me see if I can share it. I just don't want any sensitive information.
Yeah, of course. You could quickly write something if you wanted, just like 2 lines or something of how it would look.
Yeah, what I could do, so right now is I'm just gonna go through my actual Google Docs, and I'll just maybe scroll down or copy and paste some of what I do. But so to break it down fully, the way I audit a new client, and it all starts from a new client, right? You're going to make a new change log for a new client. So the way I audit in general for a new client is I go on my change log and I start looking at last 7 days, last 14, last 30, year to date, all time for all of the campaigns that are live. And this is for an account that either is in need of optimization, where you actually have historical data, and not a brand new account, because that obviously wouldn't make sense if it was a new campaign. So if you have historical data or historically running or currently running campaigns, this is what I do. I create a whole audit basically where I'm just going through all of the different campaigns and going through all of, basically the performance. And then I go off of that when I'm creating changes. I'll go like ping pong and look, okay, well, it says here that, 10/26 to 11/8, there's some weird, return on ad spend dip here. But looking at, maybe last 30 days from 10/10 to 11/8, then it goes back up. So just giving me a broader picture as opposed to being super obsessed, micro obsession to either daily or weekly parameters of data. And that's how I would start it. That's how my, let's see if I could share this. That's how I would start essentially my audit for, my change log here. Let me show you. And then after that, I just go in and start doing, account setting audits. I'll be like, okay, well, now that I have the actual numbers written down, I could see if there's any maybe like auto apply recommendations or final URLs or auto create assets that were either turned off or turned on in the last year. And I'll have a separate column for that. And I'll make a change log history just for settings being changed. And then I'll go back to whatever I told you about last 7, 30, 14, whatever year to date, and see if there's any corresponding changes that performance might have taken a dip on. And then I'll do another change log, change history year to date for bid strategy. I'll go to each
Wow.
campaign and see which bid strategy began or how they began like the campaign. I'll write the date. Okay, max clicks started February, and then I'll say okay, conversion value, and then I'll write all that down and see if there's any corresponding differences there. Any questions before I pull this up, Ryan?
Yeah, you do an awful lot more than I do when it comes to change logging. I think when you see my example, you're probably gonna laugh at it, and
Oh,
you'll be like, "What is this guy doing?" Because it sounds like you are so much more in depth and structured in the way that you do a change log than me. I'm very top level. Um, I guess the change log for me is just because I don't want to forget what I've done, so I can always refer back to things. Well, I'll get on to mine example soon. I'll let you go with yours first.
yeah. So here, okay. You see, is my screen shared now?
Yes, I can see your
Okay.
screen.
So you could see, all right, guys, y'all are gonna have to move from Spotify and go to Spotify video or YouTube video to see this. But you could see like AT. I even am so like formatted where I don't do last seven. I'm like
Wow.
L7, L14, and then AT's all time. So only I could like basically read and be like, okay, this is what this guy's trying to say. So essentially, like I just said, I go through, audit the full account, any campaigns that are currently on, currently running with their ad groups. I'll go individually and just look at what they're actually doing in the last seven, last 14, last 30, year to date, then all time. And then I'll go through and recap. Okay, this is the outlier that I saw within this specific time frame. I'll go 2024, any blips, 2023, what was going on there, 2022. Because a lot of the time, if you do all time on a specific ad group that's been running for a while, you're not going to get the full picture. So you're going to have to go through when basically that ad group or campaign started off. So it's here, it started in 2022, and you could see most of the conversion value cost is appropriated there. So what am I going to do with the current campaign now? I'm not going to put too much weight in this campaign as a whole when it comes to all time. I'm probably going to put a lot more weight in the last 30, last 60 days, and then, basically move off that. And then you could see I have different change history highlights is what I call it. Any auto apply recommendations that were on, any optimization changes, even if there was no goal guidance and then now the goal guidance was set, stuff like that. Or did they take partners out, things like that. And I'll just start to go through and record it, And so I have a baseline of the data, and then I also have the baseline of the change history and settings. And then I'll start looking and start making the changes. Like right here, 1111 site links change, handbag URL to jewelry landing page. And then that's how essentially I'll create my, change logs. Any questions
Wow.
or,
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, do you do anything with that then? Is the client seeing this information? Do you share this as a report, or is this strictly for your eyes only?
Yeah, so like me and Ryan were talking about earlier how I just got Loom. And I like to be able to repurpose a lot of things. I don't want to just use Loom for clients. I want to use Loom for, YouTube, whatever it may be. So my change log actually doubles as a notes, like my show notes, if I'm going to go through and do like a Loom weekly update. So that's the only thing that I don't show them, like a client is specifically, da 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 da, or I don't like let them have this, or I don't like we don't collaborate on the doc itself. But I will go through, it just makes it easier, more streamlined, like where I know the talking points, I could just get it done. I'm not frustrated. I'm not like procrastinating. Most of the time we procrastinate because we don't have the information. I have the information right there. This is what I did. So I'll just talk about that through Loom.
That's really, really good. Yeah, I like that. I feel like when it gets to my section, I'm probably going to give an example as well in terms of what I've done. But I'll let you carry on in terms of, your show notes and what you want to touch on. But from what I'm seeing, I really like your change log. I think it's really detailed and, it's really good. So kudos, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I mean, so going back, just more of like a high level, um, we all have imposter syndrome, and we've discussed this at like different times, as a PPC manager, and I have it. And I think the only people that have it are like high performing people. The people that are oblivious and don't have imposter syndrome, they probably just think they're doing things well, and they're not even close. So it's good to have that, where you're kind of like second guessing yourself, like, am I doing all that I could do? I think that's essentially what an entrepreneur is the constant battle of, am I doing enough to spread my lead generation? Am I doing enough for my specific clients? And I would rather that than someone, not care. So what this changelog essentially does for me is just make sure that the changes that I create or that I optimize has a reason for why I create the change and why I optimize it. And as basic, as simple as that sounds, it's not really for the client. It's not really for anyone except for myself to just say, hey, you have a path, and you have a direction. It's important in this specific niche of Google Ads where uncertainty is the only certainty, to have a specific light at the end of the tunnel where you can say, hey, I changed this because of, last 7 days, last 8 days, and these are the dates corresponding to that. And I'll even like highlight things. I'll even highlight, I've been known to do this when I change a bid strategy, because we all know that's a pretty big tier of change. I'm like, do not change until, I'll do like 30 days later. I'll put in red and I'll highlight it. Do not change until this day. So that's why I do it in docs. But yeah, it just simplifies a lot of decision making, and it also simplifies the reporting that you have with the client, where you're not caught with your pants down, where a client asks you a question and you're like, I haven't looked at that account in a while. We have all done it because we all juggle multiple accounts. We're like, oh, I don't even know what this person's talking about, So that's why I do it, just to keep on top of things, right? But yeah, I think I've just kind of gone through and word vomited through my section, just because, you know, we showed more of less, or like less of a theoretical, and actually showing them my, change log. So I think it's up to you, man. Any questions on that? And
Yeah.
if not, we can move towards your section.
No, I think I'm going to shoot straight onto mine, and I'm going to
Yeah.
share my example because I think it's quite different to what you do. So I'm hoping this is going to work because mine is not online; it's kind of like on desktop. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping I can show this. Let's see. Just tell me if you can see my screen. I'm sure it'll
Yep.
pop up.
Perfect. I see it.
Can you only see that, or can you see anything behind it? Or
No, I just see like the actual doc, just the
this
demo
is great.
doc. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So basically I'm a little bit different to Gene in the fact that I actually like to use Notion. Is like a, well, what is it? It's like a note-taking app, I guess. And there's so much more potential that you can do with Notion. But I just use it purely for my changelog. I used to use something called Evernote really back in the day when I just started. Gene's shaking his head. He's like nodding along. He probably knows what Evernote is. I'm sure a lot of people do, right? Um, I don't even know if Evernote is still free. I stopped using it when they were really trying to hammer in the paid version. And I just thought, well, what I need it for doesn't really warrant a paid version. So I was looking for something else. I tried Trello. I just really cannot get on with Trello. There's too much you can do with it. In my opinion, I just want something really basic, but I didn't want a Google Docs. So I thought I'm going to try Notion. I think I tried it at the start of 2024. So I kind of moved all my clients over from Evernote over to Notion, and I haven't looked back since. I think it's really great. But like I said, I'm sure, there's so much more you can do with Notion. I wish I could kind of do it, but I just don't know how. Anyway, this is my changelog. This is an old client, as you can see. I actually lost this client a couple of months ago. It's fine, Oh, don't feel too sorry for me. It's part of the game. As PPC account managers, we know, right, that clients come and go, left, right, and center. It just happens. But these guys were in the HVAC niche out in the US, and I actually really like this client. It was a really good client. It's just obviously one thing to another. Like agency opportunities came forward for them, and they wanted to do SEO, web development, all these things that I don't really offer. So it is what it is. But this is how I do it. And this is the same structure for all of my clients. So what I typically do is I've got the client name at the top where it says demo. And then with Notion, you can do really cool things like you can add an icon, add a cover. So if you've got like the logo of the company, or you go on the website and they've got like the background image, you can include that. So it just kind of makes it a little bit more fresh and, a bit more intuitive, I guess. And then straight away, I'll just do some like things to do. So, like Google Tag Manager access. Have I asked for that? Do I need to chase that up? What converts? Or like conversion tracking specialist who can help me set that up. What about maybe doing a competitor ad group? So these are like things that, on my mind at the moment that I don't really want to forget about, that I'm thinking about. Should I recommend this to the client? How does it look? Or, I'm thinking about doing a Performance Max campaign. Or I'm thinking about doing like a competitor campaign, whatever it might be. That kind of goes down. I've got a nice little chat box so I can kind of click it off when it's done. And this is how I do it, is I go almost, I guess, different to Gene in that I go from like start, as you can see here when we set the campaign up, all the way to, the last kind of stuff that I did on the account. And for me, it's just as simple as, this is the date and these are the changes that I made. So on the 11th of the 10th, or so that's the 10th, that's the 11th of October for the American listeners and viewers. I added some geo-local keywords. I added HVAC as a phrase match keyword. I paused some low search volume kind of keywords that just didn't really have any costs, didn't really have any impressions. Paused those, and I switched from a maximize clicks bidding strategy over to a target CPA bidding strategy with a $300 target cost per acquisition. You might say, well, that's crazy, but honestly, the client was already, I assume, yeah, Gene's laughing. This is lead generation niche as well. I probably had the client a month longer than I thought I would have them. And HVAC is so competitive. Like it's the same for plumbers, HVAC, tree surgeons. That niche is so competitive. You need big budgets in order to just get the click these days. Not even the conversion, just the click. It's so expensive. You're talking like 15, 20, 30, $50 a click, a single click, not even a conversion, just a click. So that's giving you an idea of how expensive the HVAC niche is. So that's why I had to have a really big target cost per acquisition, which for HVAC, I mean, if you think about maybe like a furnace installation or HVAC tune up or maintenance, I think Gene, you mentioned to me the other week actually that you were having your furnace kind of tuned up or something, right? Checked out.
Yeah, I did like a service, and that was like hundred bucks for them just to serve,
100 bucks.
just to even look at it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, just to look at it. How much did
Yeah.
he like charge just to for the whole thing?
He didn't do anything. He just cleaned it. He just changed
Oh,
the filter. So it's like, yeah, you change the filter and like say, hey, you could do this better, or do that better. But I'm like, nah, I don't want to pay that money right now. I'll just
yeah.
gamble.
But this is the thing. So he could have spent like $300 to get Gene in as a lead, for example. And he's trying to upsell in, say, do this, do that. And Gene's like, no, I'm good. So he's probably lost money on that one. But this is the thing, is that it's so expensive and it's just difficult to compete. Kind of getting off
Yeah.
tangent here a little bit. But the point is that this is how it's structured for me. So date, changes made, and then I like to add a little divider so that, okay, that's done for the day. And this was, a few days before, and that was a few days before, and things like that. So you can see it's every 7 to 10, 14 days, you want to be going in and making a few changes and document them. And this is more for me to know, okay, this is the change that I made on that date. This is why I've made the change. And this is the expected outcome, for example. Sometimes I don't put all that in, like switch from max clicks to target CPA. I didn't really give an explanation. I think on this one, I got a little lazy towards the end because the writing was on the wall. I knew the client was leaving anyway. So, and plus, this is more for my eyes only. Nobody sees this. This is just me, except for you guys here at the PPC Cave who are watching on Spotify video or on the YouTube channel. Nobody sees this. It's usually me writing notes to myself because I'm old and I am liable to forget what changes I've made when inside an account. So what's nice is that I can scroll back and say, right, okay, on the 18th of September, I integrated call rail, which was cool. I changed the daily budget from $50 to $100 per day. I paused the emergency broad match keywords, increased the AC repair ad group, all these different things. So I can go back and say, right, okay, well, in September, I made that change. What was the result of that? Or actually in August or whenever it was, what was the result of that? And I can kind of go back and I have that documented. Like Gene said, it's also like proof of work as well on my part. So if the client says, well, what are you actually doing? I can always kind of scroll back and say, well, this is what I have. This is what I've been working on. So I don't really typically share this with the client. It's a reminder when I'm doing my client reports, what I've worked on and things like that, which is cool. But yeah, that's kind of it. So that's kind of how it looks for me. That's a bit of a demo. And, for you watchers and subscribers out there, feel free to, copy this as a structure for a changelog if you wanted to do. But yeah, I really like Notion as a platform as well. Gene, any thoughts on what you're seeing here in terms of my changelog, in terms of Notion, or any questions or anything else?
No, yeah. I mean, this is great. I mean, so like I have a change log that's more like this. This is kind of like a to-do list, but just like what you did, like preemptively, like backwards. I have like a weekly tasks
Mm.
where I go through and edit it. But yeah, we do things a little bit different, but that's fine. Like it's whatever works for you. Like if this is all you need and you have like like basically all you need is here. You have all the changes that you've done with the date. That's essentially all y'all need if you're starting off with a change log. And Ryan provides an example that's more simple, but I think to make it more simple is probably how a lot of people are going to be less intimidated to get into an account, because a lot of the times where if it's too complex, you're like, okay, now wait, what did I mean by that? Like you start freaking out. But if it's just simple, it's just like, okay, this is what happened with the date. Sometimes people just thrive on the simplicity that way. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, the only other thing that I would kind of add on is the one of the reasons why I've kept a change log and it's helped me is I was discussing this with Ryan earlier, is I actually had, like Ryan was saying, he we all have clients that come and go, then maybe decide to come back. And it's the same account, right? So whatever changes on there needs to be written down. It could be gone back to if a client does come back, and that's happened to me before, where a client left for an agency, wasn't satisfied with the agency's work, and when they came back, we just basically picked it up where we left off with my change log, just minus the 3 or 4 months that they were gone. So it actually really helps structure a client's changes if they decide to come back. And another thing that I use it for is if I have maybe two clients in the same niche. Granted, every website or organization is different, but sometimes I'll look and be like, oh, well, like if this is a client that is in the same niche, perhaps apparel, women's apparel. What did I do for this client that I could maybe, um, stencil off this new client that I just got, and what worked and what hasn't worked. Have you had any examples like that where you just kind of look back and be like, oh, well, I did this for this client. Maybe I'll take a look at this change log and see if there's any similarities there.
A little bit, a little bit. I've kind of, I like to have like plumbing clients or HVAC clients and things like that. I find like, yes, it's a very difficult niche to kind of advertise in and manage an account for, but the payoff is huge because if they get like a new boiler installation or a furnace installation or whatever it might be, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. So it's a good niche to kind of when it works at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've kind of looked, because that was an example of a HVAC niche that I had recently. Like I said, I had a client similar to that probably 4, maybe 6 months ago as well, who left. But I had those guys for coming up to 2 years, and it's the same situation, ironically, as the last one. They wanted to go with another agency who, these agencies, they come in and they promise them the world. We'll do SEO, we'll do PPC, we'll do design, development, all this kind of stuff. And you can charge us, $10 a month or something, because that's how they do it. They undercut a lot of people. And it's going to be like, not $10 a month, obviously, but more like, $500 or something a month to do all this stuff. But the problem is that in my experience, I don't want to bash agencies too much, but It's what did they call it? Something like a jack of all trades, a master of none, or none, or something. So I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of agency situation, really, in my experience at least. But yeah, I've looked at what worked for the guys 6 months ago and kind of implemented that in the last client I had. But it's good to have that. And I think if you don't have a change log, I think that is the main concern there, is that I think any competent and good quality Google Ads account manager should have a change log. And I think if there are any business owners listening to this, or people who have their own e-commerce store or whatever, if you're trying to find a Google Ads account manager, that could be a really good telltale sign of, okay, is this person high quality? Like, are they a good Google Ads account manager? If they say, yes, I have a change log, then you're probably onto a winner. If they say, no, I don't need a change log, I'll just log into Google Ads and look at the change history there, then I wouldn't rely on that. And how many times are you like keeping track of that? So I think you kind of need a personal change log, because it shows intent. Gene, me, other Google Ads account managers I know, we're going out of our way to set the date and say we made this change or do this audit or whatever it might be on this specific date. So I do think it's a quality of a good Google Ads account manager in my experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, I always think of my change log as if you've ever watched those old movies where they're observing like a subject and they're scientists, and they'll like have a little phone and they're like, subject is reacting differently to the blah, 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 and then they'll click it off. I feel like that's kind of how a change log is, just because like I said before, this whole Google Ads realm is just uh, multiple experiments, right? What's the experiment gonna do, or how is it gonna react if you increase the budget? Well, how is the experiment going to react if you make that negative keyword? Did the reaction that we want, because this was a negative keyword, result in either a positive or a negative reaction? So, with all that variability and variance, it's really, really important to just have a handle and understand what optimizations were made, and perhaps even what optimizations need to be observed. That's one thing about a change log also. It doesn't mean change a bunch of times and write it in there. Sometimes I'll put a date and I'll be like, I observed last 7 days, and then that's it. That's what I put in my change log. I did not change anything. I'm just putting it there so it's more of a chronological timeline, and I could look up and see, oh, the reason why I only observed it is because I made a huge change by increasing the budget, maybe setting a target ROAS, something like that. So I think it really provides more of a highlight of the timeline changes and just giving you that right cadence of not overdoing changes so that you freak out. So any last thoughts, Ryan, before we close it out?
No, I think you've kind of summed everything up. I think just to hammer home, we don't really need to over optimize, over account manage, and make changes for change's sake. Sometimes we just need to let things optimize and settle and learn. And if you're not really making a change for 2 weeks, that's fine. As long as you're inside the account, the budget is being spent, you're getting the results that you want to see. That doesn't necessarily have to mean conversions. That could be, a certain cost per conversion. It could be a certain cost per click, impressions, click through rate, whatever it might be, any metric that you're following. As long as you're getting the expected results, then that's the main thing. We don't need to make changes for change's sake and over optimize. But no, I think there's not really much to say when it comes to a change log. It's kind of basic. I think any competent Google Ads manager should have one. So, if you're listening to the PPC Cave, this is Gene and I's warning to you to make sure you have a change log, because it's, yeah, it just makes sense, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah. And, guys, if y'all like our content, just make sure to subscribe to us, to follow, engage, not only with the social media that Ryan puts out, but with our actual episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Video, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube. We release every week on Monday, 12 a.m. Mountain Time. And we've actually gotten a little bit of more engagement from the Reddit side. So we've created a Reddit community. Don't know how we're going to be, if we're going to be active there a lot, but we have it and it's in the description. Sometimes I and Ryan perhaps like to just go under the PPC communities and Google Ads communities, just answer questions. Shout out, I don't know that dude's name, but I, was
Sahil.
DMing this. Maybe I forgot if it's, I don't know his name, but we were, going back and forth on Reddit, and I
Oh,
think
on
he's
Reddit. I
just,
thought you meant my
yeah,
guy. Shout out
no,
to Sahil if you're listening. He's a subscriber on the PPC Cave. He gave some really good comments in terms of the last episode. He said he really enjoyed it and, lots of value in it. So I appreciate that, Sahil. Thank you.
shout out Sahil, and shout out to everyone else. I think we're at 352 subs on YouTube. We want to keep doing this. We learn twice when we're able to do this. So, we're definitely in it for the long haul. This is something we've committed to, and we've worked our lives around it. Essentially, not to be dramatic, but it does take time for Ryan to post and for me to edit and stuff. But we like doing it. So, subscribe to us, and if there's nothing else, we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.